Today we're going to forensics. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know this is going to be a pretty quick talk, and there's probably not going to be much of a demo. So if that's uninteresting to you, go ahead and sign in and leave. I mean, I don't really care. Just sign in. Let me get those numbers. Which leads me, great segue, guys. Please sign in if you haven't already. We ask you guys to sign in because this directly affects the amount of funding that we get. So when we get to report our numbers accurately, it means that we get to do more cool stuff. We are trying to do more cool stuff outside of this generic Wednesday Tech Talk format, and we're excited to talk about that with you guys soon. But for right now, this is just kind of what we got to do. I want to add, Snapchat has a built-in QR code reader. If you don't know how to use QR codes, you can literally just take a Snapchat of it and it'll open up for you. If you have an iPhone, just point it at it and your iPhone will do it for you. You don't even have to install a QR code app if you have an iPhone. Man, I don't know. That's cool. I don't know anything about Android because they're stupid, but you know. Oh. All right, so I wanted to add this. I thought this was interesting. We normally do a head count of the number of people in the room, and we compare that to the people who are actually signing in. Generally, about 87% of people will actually sign in if they come in and eat pizza. Last week, we really emphasized it to you guys, and we managed to get 108% of you guys to sign in. So the only logical conclusion I can draw is that if I yell loud enough, people who aren't in this room will sign in too. All right, as far as announcements go, we have Fire Talks that are coming up. If you guys are unfamiliar, Fire Talks are kind of just short, simple, 5 to 10 minute presentations that you guys can do. We'll have a couple of you guys come up for one talk, and you guys in succession. We'll just give you little speeches. It's a really fun activity, especially if you're interested in trying to talk about things that you're doing, but you don't really want to fill an entire hour slot, because trust me, I don't either. It's a great resume booster. If you want, we can record you doing your presentation. You can put that on sites like LinkedIn. I don't have data to back this up, but I will tell you with all the authority of my being. So very little. Recruiters love videos, and when they see artifacts and videos on your LinkedIn profile, they go bananas. They go, oh my gosh, natural leadership ability, and they just want to hire you. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you can go ahead and scan the QR code. You have time if you want to think about it. What you're doing doesn't have to be in the vein of exploitations. You don't have to show us anything newfound. We're not interested in any zero-day exploits here. If you're just doing something that you think is cool and you want to share it, we want to hear it.
If you are going to drop a zero-day exploit on us, that's pretty.
If you drop a zero-day, I mean, I'll follow Tinker. I'll buy you a beer.
I'll give you a whole freaking pizza at that point.
Yeah, sure. There you go. We also have officer applications going up. Unfortunately, 2 of our officers will be moving on next year. They're a little bit too cool for us now. Nick Don being one of them. Sad day. Sad day.
Sorry, are you talking to me a little bit too cool to talk to you right now, okay, sir?
So, I have notes on this. Yes, I do. Oh, shoot. Hey, you guys want to ask me Q&A? Go ahead and do that. The biggest thing I can tell you guys is if you are an underclassman, if you're a freshman, if you're a sophomore, do apply if you're interested. When I applied to be an officer, I was a freshman, and they went ahead and went with me. The biggest things that we look for isn't extreme technical knowledge or like career experience. Those are nice things to have, but the biggest thing that we're interested in is passion. Are you passionate about cybersecurity? Are you really interested to learn? And are you interested in helping other people learn? If you have those qualities, then you're a perfect fit, and we want to talk to you. There are perks that come with being an officer. It's nothing too cool. You don't get a paycheck, but it's a great community, and I love it here. So I think Brandon can say too, he's enjoyed every minute of this. Aww. So a couple of brief announcements. October 2nd, that is this upcoming Wednesday. It's not today, but 7 days from today. I always struggle with that. Is Dallas Hackers Association. That means we will not be meeting. We encourage all you guys to come to DHA and come, I don't know, see what other people outside of UT Dallas are doing as far as exploits and all sorts of hacker shit. And if you can't find a ride to DHA, because it's a decent drive, we encourage you to try and find we encourage you to try and find a carpool. You can check around in our Discord. If you're not a part of our Discord, check our website and definitely join that. We legally can't tell you to go to this. It's not a sanctioned event that UT Dallas is doing. We have no affiliation with DHA, but as officers, we enjoy it. We enjoy it so much we don't even want to meet with you guys. We want to go over there and drink beer. So you can come join us, and we love that. And you can go ahead and talk to your friends and see if they want to go too. But yeah, there's a legal disclaimer I got to tell you there. October 7th is going to be the Paycom Corporate Talk. That is a Monday. We're going to start doing some corporate talks on Mondays now. If you're interested in seeing what Paycom is doing as far as cybersecurity is going, it'll be a great talk to come and see what they're up to. I don't know if this is sanctioned, but you can bring your resume. I heard that the Career Expo today went horribly disastrous, so maybe this is something a little better for you guys. Am I wrong there? I heard that the corporate talk I heard that at the Career Expo, like, nobody got to go in, like, it was just it was a fustercluck. What's up?
I went in, but like there's so many people and they're barely letting people in.
They stopped
So
letting
barely
people
letting
in,
people.
like,
They
an
stopped.
hour. Like they had an hour left.
Oh my
They
gosh.
already stopped letting people in.
Yikes. All right. So this is a great way to talk one-on-one with one specific company if you're interested in doing that. It's also just a great way to see what the real world cybersecurity is going to be like. As far as October 25th, we are going to be hosting our very first CTF. This is a CSG CTF. This is going to be a little bit more workshop-y. So if you've never done a CTF, if you don't know what a CTF is a capture the flag event. A CTF is kind of like a set of problems that we give you guys. Each one is a program that has a built-in vulnerability, and your job to get points to win the CTF is to figure out what the vulnerability is and exploit it to get the secret CTF. Once you do that, you get points in the system, and you can compete with other people. What's up?
Do you have an estimate on what time of day that'll be?
We're not sure yet. I can tell you that'll be October 25th. If there's enough interest, then we will keep doing this on a recurring basis. Again, this is something that we're kind of trying out, and it's new, so we want to know what you guys think about it. Yeah?
How hard do you think it'll be, like, for beginners or?
How hard is it? This one is definitely going to be geared towards beginners. It's going to be more workshop-y. We are typically, it's in the ethos of a CTF for the game designers to not give you any sort of hints or really help you at all. But we're not going to be like this. This is more kind of workshop-y. We want to kind of hold your hand and show you guys what a CTF is really like, because honestly, they're just fun, but they can be really intimidating at first sight. Also, we don't have a slide on it, but on October 2nd, the North Texas ISSA, in conjunction with the UTD's Center for Engaging Women in Cybersecurity, that's a mouthful, is going to be holding a happy hour with at, I have to look at the actual event here, y'all, Yard House in Irving. We will announce this in the Discord because there's not a number on it, but from looking at the agenda, they're going to have a small talk about women in tech and cybersecurity, and then a happy hour and just a hangout sesh. And I think it'll be fun. So it might collide with DHA. Honestly, I'd recommend you go to either one because they're just going to be good either way. And again, we'll announce these in the Discord. And then I wanted to amend last week's talk, and I'll make this really brief. Last week we talked about file system forensics, and I mentioned hard drive, like magnetic disk file recovery. And I don't feel like I did a very good job of explaining that, so I kind of wanted to walk on this really quick. When you have a magnetic drive, so like a spinning disk platter, HDD, not an SSD, this kind of little anatomy, you've got little platters, and on each side is a film of magnetic substance. I don't know what it is. It's not magnetic and sticky. And the right head, which is little bits on the boom, their job is as the platter is spinning, if they want to change a bit, then the head will go over that section where the bit is, and it'll basically put a positive or a negative electromagnetic field on it. So a negative field could represent a 0, and a positive field could represent a 1. So built into hard drive is an analog to digital converter, because again, when the head is spinning, so when the platters are spinning and the head is on there and it's setting 1s and 0s, it's adding positive or negative electromagnetic field there. And what's going on is it's saying that right, not positive, not field, charge. Yeah, I don't know what I'm on today, y'all. And as it's doing that, it's not able to get that charge to a absolute number, or there's no such thing as just plain positive charge or plain negative charge. There's always a value associated to that. So the head might give it +1 or whatever. So an analog digital converter will look at the amount of signal that's right there, and it will convert that to something that's digital. So this graph is representing a 1-bit resolution ADC. So what it's saying is, it's more theoretical too, is at the 0 point, they're both going to register 0. Then as you get slightly more and more voltage going up, the ADC is still going to register 0, because again, we're trying to turn this into something that's digital. We're trying to turn this into 1s and 0s. We don't need these half values. I can't give a processor half a bit. That'd be cool though. Then right at the halfway point, the ADC will go, okay, this is now, the majority of this is now over the threshold. So I'm going to say that this bit is now a 1. So when you have the hard drive and it's reading the 1s and 0s, it's looking at the amount of magnetic wave, and it's trying to say, okay, there's a lot of this in positive right here, so this is definitely a 1. Oh, there's a lot of negative here. Okay, this is probably 0. There's a tiny bit of positive here. It's still positive, so we're going to say this is a 1, and a whole bunch of 0, or a whole bunch of negative, that's a 0. So what happens is, if I have your hard drive, instead of just asking the hard drive, hey, give me the data, I can look at the actual platters, and I can read with just the analog signal of what those bits will read like. So if you look at this graph, notice that the 0 is about halfway there. So anything positive would register as a 1 to the ADC, and that 1 would get sent to your processor. Anything that's below the 0, negative, it counts as a 0 bit, and that gets sent to the processor. So you kind of see at the beginning, you have the preamble, and it's given it a high, low, high, low, high, low. When you get to the data, that's what I really care about. It's reading the amount of signal that's coming off the platter, and y'all can see, sometimes it will register as a 1, but it's very clearly a 1. It's there's a lot of, what is it called? A lot of volts there, very, very high charge. Sometimes it's a little bit over the 0 mark, so it counts, but it's it's not very clearly a 1. It's just kind of a 1, but that means it's still a 1. But what this means to me is, if I'm looking at this, trying to do file recovery, if that 1 has been there and that's been a 1, then that's going to be a very high signal. But if that used to be a 0 and then someone changed it to a 1, that would register as a lower voltage 1, because the right head had to just cross it over the threshold. That's all it really cared about. So that's how people are able to look at the analog signal, the analog platters on a hard drive, and able to recover old files that you may have even wiped over once but didn't do a good job of. Is that they can go and oh, this might have been a 1, so let's try this out. It's a lot of trial and error, and eventually they can sometimes recover files that you tried to wipe. So I've spent enough time talking about that. Before we can talk about networking forensics, I think we need to go over a bit of a networking primer. This will be really short and sweet, I promise. Back in the day, we used to have really simple networks. This is a really simple. You got 4 people. You got Alice, Betty, Charlie, David. They got a router, and they have a hub. Notice that's not a switch, it's a hub. So back in the day, we didn't have switches, we had hubs. And what they did is they were kind of passive devices. They looked like a switch. They had plugs like a switch would. Y'all know what a switch is, right? Yeah. So a hub, instead of actually switching the data between ports, would just electrically connect all the ports together. So you would have a single collision domain. So what that means is that if something is coming in and out of any of the computers, then all of the computers have to shut up and just listen to what that person is saying, because they're all sharing one giant, basically a giant wire together. And so these sucked because basically if anyone was, well, what happens, packets would collide sometimes. That means like two people tried to talk at the same time. They, and that becomes a garbled mess. One second. And after that, then they would both have to figure out, okay, well, let's retransmit. And they'd have to randomly wait. One person would decide to start talking first. And it just sucked, and it was slow, and it was inefficient. What's up?
Is this like dial-up back in the day? Like your mom on the phone trying to play your games?
I mean, the era is the same, yes, but that consider the big little circle up there. That's our router. So this is all kind of happening like inside like your internal network. Like it's like if you were having a LAN party at your house, and all four of you were trying to get up, you might hook all your computers up into a hub, and then yeah, cool, you have a LAN, except it's because people are colliding on each other. It's one single collision domain. Imagine 4 people in a room all trying to talk to each other at the same time. It gets messy. So they invented the switch. What a switch does is it basically creates a single collision domain between the switch and every other device. So now instead of all devices trying to talk to each other, each device on the Ethernet layer is just trying to talk to the switch itself. So if Alice wanted to talk to David, Alice would go, hey, switch, I need to get this over to David. Here you go, bud. And then the switch would go, yeah, I got you, bro. And it would go and give it to David. So what happens here is now there's one collision domain per person, and the data that's being sent to that person is only uniquely for that person. So the way that works is because the switch actually has a built-in routing table. As it's slowly learning through different protocols, it's listening, and it's figuring out, oh, hey, on port 4 is David, port 3 is Charlie, and it's getting all that going, and it's figuring out where everyone is. It eventually will stop trying to broadcast to everyone to figure out where someone is. It'll just start sending the data to the relevant person on the correct port. The downside to this is that back when everything was on a hub, if I wanted to just listen in to all the traffic that was going on, I could. Because it was all going on a hub, I was sharing the wire with everyone else. So if I went to snoop and listen, I knew that, hey, Charlie was putting in his credit card information to go to somewhere, and SSL hasn't been invented yet, and I don't know what else, what's going on back then. And then I could just put my network adapter into what's called promiscuous mode, and it would just start ingesting all that data, and I could use a program to look at it. So hey, I'm Alice, and I go, hey, I'm going to be kind of floozy tonight, and I'm going to put my network adapter into promiscuous mode. It's a Friday night, I can do what I want. And then say Charlie's going, oh, sweet, I need some new shoes. I'm going to go to zappos.com. SSL hasn't been invented yet. Let me just punch in my credit card information. Boop, goes over the wire, unencrypted. Hey, Alice just saw that because we're on the same collision domain. But now with the invention of the switch, because everyone is on their own collision domain, and the relevant frames are only being sent to their respective people, if I'm Alice, I don't get to see Charlie's data anymore. I might see something Charlie broadcasts, because we can broadcast to all ports, that's a cool feature. But if the switch is trying to talk to Charlie, I don't get that now. That sucks. So one of the ways around that, and y'all might know about these are called LAN taps. These are really fun. Basically what these do, y'all might have seen these, Hack5 used to sell them. They also have some newer models that are active. These are passive devices. Is they have these Ethernet ports on them, and they basically just work as really tiny hubs all over again. So I could snip your wire. Hey, say I'm an evil hacker and I want to get your passwords. I'm going to go up to your desktop. I'm going to snip your wire, and then I'm going to, belabor to the entire point to repatch it again. I don't know why. But I'd plug in this LAN star. That gets me extra ports that are now within your collision domain. So it basically works like a tiny hub. I can plug my own device into there, and then cool. Now I'm just getting to listen into all the traffic that you got going on that wire again. It's great. That's one of the physical. That's a physical attack if you were trying to go up against something that's a wired device. Man, I don't see any audio. Okay, I must be doing a great job because y'all aren't asking questions. The laughter says I'm not doing a great job. Oh shit. All right, so we're gonna get a little bit more complicated with it now. This would be kind of like your typical like enterprise network. So with these enterprise networks, you generally have a main firewall, and this has like very basic rules, like, don't hack, don't, the basic rules, don't try to SSH into our company computers, don't, try to, whatever ports you want to do, the typical ones, 666, 1337, I don't know. You're just typical ports. It's going to do some really basic blocking. It's not trying to do a whole lot. Then you have the DMZ. A DMZ is really just a place where you put servers that need to be accessible to the public, but shouldn't be in your own private network. Because your private network should not be exposed to, should not have incoming internet at all. You should be able to go out, but you shouldn't be able to have people come in and serve stuff. So that's what the DMZ is for. Then you have your internal firewall, and that's making sure that stuff that's in the DMZ stays in the DMZ. We don't want to touch that. And then you got your workforce over there, and you got your intranet. That might be Active Directory, some internal servers you got going on, Plex. I don't know what y'all are doing. Okay, here's a great one. How illegal is it to hook up one of those hubs without someone's consent? Very illegal. Very illegal. You should try it. I didn't say that. You're not allowed to say that. Legally, I'm not allowed to say that. Don't try it at home. So, in this cool enterprise network, we don't have any hubs. Fuck, we can't listen into anyone's information. What's going on? So how would we actually do that? If say you're a sysadmin, boo. You're not security, you're infosec, or you're information tech now. It sucks. So then you've been tasked to put in some sort of monitoring. Your boss wants to know what traffic is coming in and over the wire. And it's really important to mention this because the name of the game for networking forensics is that you gotta set up your logging, you gotta set up your auditing, you gotta do all that beforehand. Because unlike with something like file forensics, if that file was there, we could do our best to try and figure out if it was there. But with networking forensics, switches, they're not they weren't designed to have a trail of, oh yeah, so-and-so was talking to so-and-so. That's not what they do. They just switch. So if I sent someone some data say a hacker sent some data through my system and I'm a lazy sysadmin and I didn't set up any sort of logging or NetFlow, anything, well, guess what? There's no proof of it anymore. That signal went and I can never prove that it happened. So we got to set up some sort of monitoring beforehand. One of the ways that we could do this, and again, I'll preface this, if you're doing anything actually network forensics, obviously the same rules apply. You got to document your findings. Everything's got to be airtight, because just like with file forensics, you're going up against lawyers effectively. You have evidence, and they're going to try, the defense attorneys, or maybe the accusing, I don't know, they're going to try and prove or disprove that evidence, so you want it to be as clear and concise as possible. One of the ways we could start doing monitoring, some of y'all might know, a web proxy. It's so cute. So with a web proxy, we could enforce it that Alice, Betty, David, Charlie, if they want to go out to the internet, they got to go through the proxy. And we can make sure that happens with the internal firewall. Say a rule like, hey, HTTP, port 80, bro, only web proxy can talk there. If y'all want to go and you want to talk to the internet, you got to go through proxy. We could also enforce it with stuff like Active Directory group policies, make sure that just the web proxy is just automatically configured on the workforce. They won't even know it's there. By the way, UT Dallas does not just use web proxies, but they do in some instances, but y'all don't know it's there. Careful. Web proxies can also do stuff like block connections as they're coming in. If you want to go to Facebook, and it's polite, if you're trying to go to facebook.com and it's during work hours, the web proxy might tell you, you're not supposed to do that, go work. potential ways around this. Say I'm a lazy sysadmin again, then I don't really make sure that only the web proxy is talking, or maybe I don't, like, it's just confusing, I don't need that rule, but I at least set it up in group policy that the computers are supposed to go and talk to the web proxy to get outbound. Well, malicious hacker might come along and stick a little Raspberry Pi in my network or something, and then guess what? That Pi doesn't have to abide by the rules. It's not part of my group policy. Who the hell does it care? So then now there's a bad guy with a device in my network, and the web proxy is not doing anything. Additionally, a web proxy is only going to do that. It's going to proxy the web. If someone's going on ports that aren't part of a web proxy, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. Say they're trying to play Halo Custom Edition. You couldn't get in there, you know. That one obviously didn't relate to the crowd. I'm getting old now. You played Halo, right?
Heck yeah, that's what
Okay. Halo was my very first video game, so it's like, yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. I need that validation. You trying to be an officer? Yeah. So there's ways around this. It's not that great. It's just looking at web traffic. It's not looking at TCP. It's not looking at actual IP packets. So how about we go ahead and do a thing called an intrusion detection system? Ooh, everyone with me now. Ooh, nice. Intrusion detection systems can tap into like a switch or a firewall and can get all the packets because of a little thing called port mirroring. It's a great new... Don't swear? Okay. I won't swear, I promise.
That's why.
So, intrusion detection systems, because of a thing called port mirroring, which is a feature that was added, again, it's like sometimes as a sysadmin, well, what if I want to have what if I kind of want to have the feature, like the feature of a hub where all the data was being flowed to different ports and I could kind of tap into that. What if I want that on command? Well, port mirroring is a feature where all the data that's flowing through one port, so you could choose like your aggregate LAN or like your WAN side connection, so like the line that goes up to your ISP, I could say, hey, all that data, be of it, and just flow through this other port. So it kind of works like a hub, but on command. What's up?
Is that similar to port forwarding?
Port forwarding is when you are taking a port through a NAT. So not necessarily, but that's also a really important thing that switches are doing, because port forwarding will, through NATs, it'll take it, and do that address translation for each port. This is more like at the IP or on like the packet level. Each packet that's flowing through the connection is having a duplicate sent on a different connection. This feature isn't generally used for routing. This feature is more used for stuff like this, for compliance security, where I have this intrusion detection system. It's got its Ethernet, it's got its adapter in at 24/7. Everyone's so, ew, you don't want to touch that. And then it's just looking at all the traffic. It's basically like it's acting like it's tapped into the WAN connection, kind of like with one of those little, I think they're called like LAN tap throwing stars. They always try to make everything seem like Hack5 tries to make everything look so cool. Ooh, I don't care. It's working like that, except better, because the WAN taps are passive, and usually when you have a passive device, you're stuck at 100 megabit per second throughput. So we can still keep our gigabit or 10 gig, 40 gig, whatever we have going on our WAN. We're really cool. We got a 40 gig. Wow, that's expensive. Then we can still do port forward, or we can do port mirroring. We can do port mirroring and run it through a different port. So intrusion detection system is really important because there's two different types, online and offline. And it's kind of ambiguous, and it sounds kind of smart, but not really. Because online means it's actually physically in line with the system, so not like this. This IDS is clearly offline because it's taking a port mirror. But the offline, or the online, could be looking and inspecting all the traffic, and before it lets anything through, it's inspecting each individual packet and going, hey, does this one, does it check out? Is this clear? Okay, it goes. Now, what about this one? This one's not so great, we're gonna chuck it. Offline, it's just taking that fire hose of data as it's happening, saving it to disk, and then just analyzing it as it can. So say that offline is generally a little bit better, because say you have this huge spike in throughput, you don't want your IDS system to be like a bottleneck on your system trying to analyze every single packet. Instead, it could just save all that data as it happened, and then as the spike kind of tapers back down, it has more time to process, can keep going through. Yeah?
So you say it analyzes the packets. What differentiates a good versus like a hacker packet?
That's a great question, and that question can be answered by full-time jobs. So
Okay, darn.
there are people who are out there crafting rules for IDS systems, intrusion detection systems, and it's just their full-time job is figuring out, okay, well, here's a new vulnerability. Let's create a rule that can help to, to kind of, well, here's a rule to try and figure out, exactly what these packets are and how to identify them. It also helps hackers normally, normally the packet's wearing like a black hoodie and is trying to not like be seen by the firewall. So that's always kind of an immediate like telltale.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a joke. If you want to upgrade our IDS system, let's say your boss says, hey, I want to be able to, I don't just want to be able to detect these systems, because again, all this is doing is it's saying, hey, there was a packet, I don't think it was good. And just like, what? Okay, cool, thanks, bud. You did nothing for me. Say I wanted to be able to have this system actually stop the hacker, because I'm lazy, I don't want to go do it myself. I want the system to do it. Well, then we have intrusion prevention systems. So, an extra arrow. I put a lot of effort into this talk. So what this is doing now is the intrusion prevention system is now detecting the malicious the hacker packets as they're coming through. And it's identifying them and going, yes, this was a bad setup. And then now it can make actions off of that. So in this diagram, if I was to present this to my boss and pretend like this is my cool infrastructure diagram. Wow, I got 4 employees. I could say this IPS system is identifying bad rules, and now it is sending off updates to the main firewall, and it's saying, hey, this IP address, this source IP address that I just got from so-and-so because he was sending really crappy packets, go ahead and block him. And so that's a system that I've worked on with a previous company. Now, not everyone is like this. There's 1,000,001 ways to have your intrusion prevention systems actually prevent intrusions. This is kind of a simple one. I had ours set up so that the snort is a network IDS. We had it set up so if you were a bad guy for long enough, so you triggered enough rules, we would just go ahead and it would automatically update the main router, and it would just block your entire IP address. So then you try to hit any of our servers again, and you can't get squat. So it was really fun, especially if you accidentally make a bad rule. Then you just basically take your whole network offline, because it'll set everyone to being a bad guy, and then no one can see your network, and now your boss is screaming at you. Let's see what's going on here. How can you mirror several Ethernet ports through one port? Did you send that?
No.
Okay. All right. So the way that port mirroring works, and maybe I will whiteboard this for you guys, is so you got a switch. The switch has a lot of ports on it. So we've got our cute little switch. It's rectangular because it's enterprise ready. It's so cool. It's rackable. And we got our ports. So cool, enterprise. It's an 8-port switch. Wow. So, and I'm not going to number these in the same way. Y'all are allowed to be upset. So, say this is a managed managed switch, and I want to do port mirroring. I can go ahead and have it configured.
John,
to say,
you might want to do on this side because the microphone's over here. I don't think anybody on the stream can hear you.
So say you have this 8-port switch. Say 1 is our WAN, port 2 is our LAN, and I want to mirror everything that comes in and out of port 1 to my IDS system. So I want everything that's coming in and out of the WAN port, and again, that's bidirectional. I want it to all get put through through port 5, which will now be the one for my IDS. Well, I would configure port mirroring from 1 to 5. If I wanted to do more, I think there's a way. It depends. I feel like I'm going to say this depends on the manufacturer. but you could probably configure it. So like say port 1 is my WAN, port 2 is like WAN 2. Say I'm really cool, I have an enterprise system, and I got 2 ISPs. I'm rolling. So then I could set up a configuration so that port 1 is mirroring to port 5 and port 2 is mirroring to port 5. Port 5 would get an aggregate of both, and that'll get sent out to the IDS. So these aren't like, it's not a hardware setup the way this works. It's all software. It's just going and seeing that port mirroring is enabled, and it's just passing it off to the extra port. And again, when I'm saying ports, I'm talking these physical Ethernet jacks too. I feel like I really should have said that way earlier. By the way, this talk was brought to you by NordVPN. We'll talk about this more later after the show.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
So fun fact, student organizations at UT Dallas can't be sponsored. We can only receive generous gifts from other organizations. That's why you'll see t-shirts. None of them should say sponsored. If you look at the next ACM Hack UTD shirts, it'll always say special thanks to. Yeah, legal is weird.
So special thanks, NordVPN.
We have a special thanks for NordVPN. Yep. Oh my God. Y'all are horrible. I can't show half of these. I can't show half of these questions y'all got. So you have 2 different types of intrusion detection systems, network IDS and intrusion or host IDS. Network intrusion detection systems are
I'll read the questions.
yeah, they're stupid. At least I'm not like yeah. So network intrusion detection systems are things like Snort, which is this clearly cocaine-addicted pig. Another one that's really popular is called Bro. It's called Zeke now, which is somehow even worse of a name. These are network intrusion detection systems. What they're doing is, say we're doing our port mirroring setup, we're so cool, and we have one of these pieces of software. They'll be ingesting all the data as it's coming in, and it'll be comparing it to a rule set. And the rule set can be whatever your heart desires, to be honest. And it's just rules that you want. You could say, hey, if someone tries to connect to port 22 and it doesn't work, and then they try to connect to port 22 on a different server and it doesn't work, it looks like they're trying to scam my network for port 22. So let me just go ahead and block them. Yes?
Suricata is another network IDS. It's kind of like Snort, except it's optimized for parallel and multi-port processing.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Suricata. Honestly, I thought that Suricata had a name change too. Did they not? Maybe. I could just be. I may have blown this out my booty. There are questions. Which question do you want me to do? Hello, hi. How does an IDS check for malicious email contents or defend against social engineering attacks? That is an excellent question. It seems like it was fed to me, but okay. So there's a reason we're always anonymous when we're asking questions. So an intrusion detection system probably can't help you too much against like logical attacks like phishing, social engineering. Well, it really can't help you against social engineering. Social engineering isn't happening on the wire most of the time. Social engineering obviously is the act of like being friendly to someone at the company, being like, hey, I'm the new guy, can you get me into the restricted access zone so I can go talk to my manager? And naturally people want to help you out, so they do, and then you hack them. You're just such a rude person. They let you into the restricted access zone like that, man. Malicious email contents, that one might be a little bit better. You could potentially use an IDS or an IPS to check on that just by setting up rules. So if you have a known thing, say like I have an intrusion detection system that's just looking, hey, if there's stuff coming in or out of the, I could say if there's stuff coming in or out of the mail server and it has the word, Zimbabwean prince or whatever? Nigerian prince, thank you. If it says Nigerian prince, then just go ahead and just kill the connection. But if we're being totally honest, that may not be the best route because email spam filters are going to be more suited for that because they'll be able to properly handle the mail. The IDS system, the IPS system, at best, is probably just going to be able to like kill the connection. And that may be kind of rude. And better yet, they might try to retransmit. Spam systems are going to be better at going, no, you're spam, goodbye, and handle that a little bit more accurately. Did I get a haircut? No, I've started putting some gel in my hair, and it looks really good. Thank you, though. Host intrusion detection systems are things like OSEC, and Sophos actually has a thing called Unified Threat Monitoring. They have their own UTM system now, and it's really cool. They have a full system, so like they're more than just a host intrusion detection. Sophos is doing stuff like basically they do what's called endpoint protection. So every server, every workstation, every switch in your network has this checking up on it. And so it can watch malicious content coming in or out like point to point. So it can go, oh, there's a virus, and then it spread to this person, and then it spread to this person. So it's kind of cool. It does a lot more than just host intrusion detection. But host intrusion detection is going to be looking at stuff like have like secure things, have secure files on your system been changed, have, stuff like that. And it can alert a sysadmin. So I can go, hey, what the heck? I did not install NordVPN into that server. Someone clearly has credentials that they shouldn't have. Let me go fix that. Yes, I see. Thank you, sir. Should an IDS detect things such as attempted SQL attacks? That would be a good one. I think so. Again, IDS systems can be good at detecting brute force attempts or things like network scanning. As far as SQL injection attacks, I bet you they could also check for that too. That would be a little bit more tough because SQL injection attacks tend to be pretty, they can tend to be very, I want to say polymorphic, but I know that's not the word. I clearly did not pass CS2. But it's a rough life, y'all. But SQL injection attacks can tend to be kind of just, they're different because the payload can change. It can be so many different things, but you can create rules to get the preliminaries out of there. It's like, yeah, if someone is sending into the HTTP URL a bunch of, comments and 1 equals 1, odds are they're trying to do something stupid. By the way, that's a really common attack is people in SQL injection is people not sanitizing the statement, and then instead of me typing in like my password, I can type in a statement like, double quotes and 1 equals 1, which basically would short circuit the whole system and make it think, oh, well, I guess this guy's just admin. And then boom, I'm admin. That's cool. Try it on Facebook. Don't.
You always do a true statement. It's going to give you everybody because it's always true.
There you go. So yes, there you go. What about, oh God, the button just disappeared. There we go. What would happen if IDS is compromised? Well, I wish I could show you pictures of it, but they actually make mini fridges that fit inside of a server rack. I recommend stocking that with some beer because you're going to be in for a long night. No, normally, that'd be a tough one. If your IDS system was compromised and this was a smart hacker, he'd find ways to suppress alerts, and then he'd keep going about his business, doing his malicious stuff, and you wouldn't know about it. So you want to keep your IDS system locked down real tight. We talked about his as best I can. Something really fun, if you guys really are interested in playing around with network intrusion detection and doing more stuff, trying to do some stuff outside of this talk and actually demo yourself, because guess what, we're almost at time, I'm not doing a demo. Check out Security Onion. It is a Debian-based distro, and it comes with Bro, Snort, a bunch of other really cool tools built into it. It even has it built in so like all the reporting from Bro and Snort can go into Kibana. How many of you guys were here last year when we had Elasticsearch come and do a talk? A couple of you remember that. The rest of you, there's a really cool, Elasticsearch is really cool. They make products that are specifically for searching through big bits of data, and they have a really awesome web front end called Kibana. And that's built into it. You can check it out. Do check out Security Onion if you're interested. PCAPs are really cool. Packet captures are the binary representation of packets. So when I talk about these offline IDS systems, These are normally they're going to be saving this data into PCAP files. So that's how it's stored on a server, and that's how you can if you go to Wireshark, which is a tool you can use to check out your network stream, you can save that information to go look at it later, and it'll save into a PCAP file. PCAP or PCAP-NG. PCAP-NG is a next-gen PCAP spec drafted by the IEEE. It's the same stuff. How many of you guys remember Heartbleed? Okay, it made big news because everyone was saying, "Oh, Heartbleed's gonna ruin the world," and and healthcare.gov is now compromised again. So Heartbleed, more affectionately known by its name CVE 2014-0160, was a buffer overflow attack in the OpenSSL library. What happened was what?
It's a buffer overread, technically.
Okay, buffer read. You got that. Thank you. What's up, y'all? I know what I'm talking about. What this would do is you could basically tell the server, hey, I'm going to send you, because it worked on what's called the heartbeat. That's where they got the phrase heartbleed. It would check on it would basically, you would start a connection with the server, and then you would send it a heartbeat, which was a way of telling the server, hey, are you still alive? We still got a connection. We Gucci. And then you would say, if we're good, repeat after me, hello. By the way, hello has 5 letters in it. But say I'm malicious. I would tell the server, repeat after me, hello. By the way, hello has 256 characters in it. Well, the server, being so nice, wouldn't check my work. It would say, yeah, sure, man, hello. And then it would just keep reading into memory. So this would leak server memory directly to the client in an unauthenticated way. So I just connect to any server that's vulnerable, go, hey, are you there? Tell me your memory. And it was terrible. Cloudflare, so this is a huge issue because it seemed like server memory is generally considered to be a very secure place, except when it's spouting all that out to everyone in the world. Cloudflare Challenge was a really cool thing. They tested, Cloudflare Challenge was a challenge set up by Cloudflare. They wanted to see if it was actually practical, because in theory, this was everything's compromised, just go ahead and just start the internet over again. But they want to see in practicality, is this really that bad? And so they told people, they set up a server that was intentionally vulnerable, and they had a private key on the server, and they said $10,000 to the first person that can get the entire private key and give it back to us. Because they didn't think that it was really as bad as it was. Well, less than a month later, someone gave them the private key, so it was pretty bad. This is what a heartbeat packet looks like. By the way, if you ever open up Wireshark, you'll see a bunch of stuff like this. This is called hexadecimal. It's disgusting. Ew. So the red bit up there, that's going to be the Ethernet frame. Just ignore it. It's a bunch of bullcrap. So is the yellow part. That's the IP header. Again, when you have a packet, it's a lot of layers that's encapsulated into the actual payload. The layers help to direct where the packet's actually going through the internet, because series of tubes gets really complicated real quick. Green is the TCP header. Purple, that first bit, 18. Wait, yes, the light blue part, 18, is the SSL command. So 18 meant heartbeat, and then 0303 stood for SSL version 1.1. So. And then also all the, let me see, the pink part, just for the rest of the red, pink part is the content length, and then the red is the data. So if we wanted to create a rule to help make sure that nothing would ever, if someone sent us a malicious heartbeat, because again, all this meant was if I wanted to send something that would, leak memory, I would have to say is, hey, 18, reply to me, heartbeat, 0303, we're using SSL version 1.1, and then I could just say 0001 would be like, hey, by the way, this is 1 byte of data. And then I'd give it 1 byte of data, or I'm sorry, I would do it the other way around. I would give it a huge ass number, and I would tell it hey, FFFF, which would be 255, 256. Some power to large amount of data, and I would just give it D4. And then the server would reply back, sure, D4, and it would give you all the passwords and everything, just your own social security number. How to get that? We don't know. So if we want to do a very simple check, this would be something we could add a rule into Snort. And we could just say alert, so that tells me, hey, let me know if there's a TCP connection from any source on any port that's going to my home net on port 443. And then if it has the content 1803, meaning give me a heartbeat in SSL, at least SSL version 1, we don't care what the rest is, then let me know in reference it's a CVE Heartbleed. So that's how you create rules. And by the way, there are a bunch of communities, and if you check out Security Onion, Security Onion would automatically do nightly downloads of the new latest set of community rules for you. So there's a huge group of community who create these kind of rules for Snort, Suricata, and Zeek, whatever. But say we want to get a little, but also what this would do is if there's any data coming from anyone to port 443 to any of my servers that has just the hex value 1803 in there anywhere, well then it would say that that's SSL heartbeat. And 1803, it's kind of common, especially if we're talking about things that are encrypted. Like odds are someone's going to send 1803 at some point. So if we want to be a little bit more, advanced with it, we could create 2 rules. So we're running low on time, so I'll just let you know. This first rule checks for 1603, 16 being the command to initiate a heartbeat 03 version, SSL version 1 again. And then say if the data size, the payload is more than 500 bytes, that's a pretty big payload. What's going on here, bud? So then we would want to check what's going on. So we would set a flow bit. So if you see flow bit set big heartbeat. So it's flow bits are a way in a bro of saying, hey, we're kind of weirded out. What's going on here, bud? And we could set the flow bit. And then on this next alert, the alert testing, same thing happens. We send an 1803 up. They sent a reply back, and it was definitely a heartbleed. Oh, and the flow bit was set. Okay, this was definitely a heartbleed attack. It makes it really easy for us to miss those. It makes it really easy for us to ignore the false positives where people are just sending 1803 or 18 or 1603 just randomly because it happens. And see a very clear flow of the traffic. That's what makes these systems really secure, really powerful. Is you can check to see things as they're transpiring. As well, there's thresholds set up on these, so it's like if they send a 1603 and then they reply with an 1803, it has to happen within 60 seconds for it to actually really count. So it makes it really easy. You don't get a lot of false positives. I said time to hack. Slides are boring. We don't have a demo. Y'all, we're about on time. I appreciate y'all coming out. We'll definitely send the announcements in the Discord. If you aren't on our Discord, do check it out. You can get signed in from our website. Thanks for coming. And grab more pizza. We still have some left, please.
Also, remember, we don't have a meeting next week. We are taking off for DHA. But the following week, we will come back and we're doing our exploitation stuff. So you want to see us.